next project, after you've got your two machines running, so you're ready to go, Linux and Windows that can talk to each other, and it doesn't matter what version of Windows, and it doesn't much matter what version of Linux. Then we're going to make the Linux into a Velociraptor server. And I did it on Debian 10, but I'm pretty sure it'd be fine on Debian 9 or 11 or Ubuntu also. So when I wrote this project a couple of years ago, we would use the latest version of Velociraptor, but now I recommend not using the latest version because one of the flags you need, it becomes very difficult to find. For some reason, they changed the regular expression in Velociraptor, and I cannot figure out how to use the new one. If some student is an expert in regular expressions, you can get extra credit by figuring it out. I have an offer here to give like 20 or 30 points of extra credit to anybody who can figure out how to use the new regular expressions. But when I set this up last semester, I could not figure out how to use the new system at all. And so I recommend using the old version, which I understand how to use. I couldn't find any documentation explaining how to use the new one, and I couldn't figure out how to specify any versions with it. Anyway, so here's something to understand about Velociraptor. Velociraptor is an open source product, freely available. It has been bought by Rapid7 about a year ago, and I expected a commercial version to come out, but that hasn't happened. But they haven't taken away the old one. And the thing about Velociraptor is there's one executable that you run everywhere. You use the same executable on the server and the client, which is an unusual thing, to make it very simple. So you're going to need two versions. You're going to need a Linux to go on your Linux machine. And thought I would, I can't zoom in because this is a cloud machine. Maybe I can do this. Oh, something weird happened. It suddenly zoomed in far too much. Here we go. All right. So you're getting a Linux version that matches your Linux machine, and for me it's 64-bit AMD, and you need a Windows machine that matches your Windows version, and for me that's also AMD 64, which is probably the one most of you will have. So those are the two versions. I'm going to use these exact commands here because that will give me the old version that I know works, instead of getting the latest version, which probably will make it next to impossible to get at least one of the flags. So in my command prompt here, I'll clear, and maybe I'll try making this a little bigger too. All right, then put in that stuff. So I just make a directory to put it in called Velociraptor and go in there. And now I get it with wget, which just downloads the thing from GitHub. So I'll just copy these, paste them in here. All right, so it's fetching the thing from GitHub, which is the Linux executable. See, it's the Velociraptor Linux AMD 64. And then, this is irritating. Let's see if I can somehow make it fit on the screen better. All right. Nope, it won't. What's going on here? I'm trying to make this little window. Here we go. Fit on the screen better. No, without resizing the whole desktop. There we go. We're getting there. Now it's way too high. There we go. All right. So now you download this file. It's executable just right there. You just change it to be executable in the permissions, and then you just run it. And you run it with config generate, which I think means my window is still too horizontally big. Let me see if I can somehow get hold of the right thing to fix that. All right. There we go. So it is config generate, and you generate into this file velociraptor config.yaml. And YAML is a funny format to store configurations in that is pretty popular these days. Let's take a look at this. Let's just do head. Velociraptor.config. All right. YAML has this syntax, and one thing to know about YAML is it's like Python. The spaces matter. The indentation matters. So anyway, it's just a way of storing parameters for things. All right. So you have to do that to create a default configuration for your Velociraptor, and now you have to fill in some things with your IP address. So find your IP address and edit the config file, and now you have to replace localhost with your real IP address and 127.0.0.1 with your real IP address. So I'm going to do that stuff. So first I get my IP address, which is here, and I'll put it in a clipboard. Now I edit that file. All right, and now in Nano, you could use another editor if you want, if you have it on your system, but I'm used to using Nano, which is Control-W, Control-R to search and replace. So I replace local hosts with the stuff in my clipboard, that address, and I think there should be 3 of these. Let's see, 1, I'm hitting Y to do it, 2, okay, 2 of those. Now I also have to replace 127.0.0.1 with that same address. And I'll say Y, yeah. So 2 of one and 3 of the others. So that's it. I'm going to save it with Control-X, Y, Enter. All right. So do that. Now, and by the way, it tells me here how many there are. There are 2 of the local hosts and 3 of the 127.0.0.1, so that's good. Things are working correctly. Now we got to do these commands. To move the server configuration file to its home, this will put it in the /etc directory, which is where it sort of logically should be, since it's not going to be tied to this user particularly, although it doesn't really matter if you only have one user on your system. You could probably run it there. That puts the file where it's expected to be, and this is what runs Velociraptor using that config. And now it's going to create an administrator user. You have to create a user account in Velociraptor, so that's what this is going to do. So it runs Velociraptor, it specifies the configuration to be a configuration file I just created, and adds administrator role administrator. So this name of the user is admin. Now I have to give it a password. I'm just going to use a standard password I often use. The only important thing is don't forget it. It only asks you once, which is kind of unprofessional. Most professional tools will ask you twice because you might make a typo. But anyway, that's what this thing does. And now, not having luck horizontally scrolling. There we go. All right, now we're going to start the server. That's it. The server is now ready to go. This is how you launch the server. You run it, you specify the config file, and now you tell it, I'm running the front end, and I turn on verbose, so we'll see messages, just so we can see that it's working. All right, so I go here and run it. And I leave this window open, and there you go. It's ready, and it says the GUI is ready to handle TLS requests at this address. So I guess if I click that, it should probably open in the default browser. Let's try that. Maybe not. Double click. Well, maybe I can copy it. All right, I can copy it. And then I can probably paste it in a browser, like this one. Let's add another tab. Paste it in there. There we are. Now, you notice I did not get a real domain name and a real certificate, so this is a snake oil certificate, a self-signed certificate, which is why you get this message. So I have to go to Advanced and, hello? Learn more, maybe? No? Usually it's Advanced that takes me to the opportunity to go there anyway. And for some reason, there we are. It's opening just down here where I can't see it. There we are. Error code, yes. There we are. Accept the risk and continue. That's what we want. Now, I have to log in with the account I just created, which was admin, and my password. Got to spell it right. Okay. And I guess I'll save it in the browser. I don't really. Here we are. This is the Velociraptor homepage. So this is their logo, and now you have Velociraptor is running. And there's not much to do until we have a client, but let's go back to the instructions and see what comes next. That's good, so Velociraptor is running. All right, and if you try to run this on Azure, there were a lot of problems, and I'm not sure I highly recommend that, only if you really have to run it on Azure. Some students had a lot of trouble with some of the flags on Azure, and I don't think we ever got all of them working. But anyway, so you can get your server, there's a way to get a flag here. You can get your server status if you click the house icon on the left. So let's try that. Here's the house icon, and that will show you the server status. So you can see I've got some memory allocated, and I'm currently connected clients is 0 because I haven't got any clients. This machine is not even controlling this Linux server or my Windows machine yet. It could be doing that, but it's not. So here's a user. The user is administrator, and so on. And then there's a server version, usual information here just to get you started. All right. So I can't do very much exciting with it yet, not until we have a client. So that's the next thing we have to do. We're going to make a Windows client. So let's go to the configuration file and edit it. So I could stop the server, but I guess I'm going to leave the server running. I think that's fine. I can probably just leave it running and have a new tab. All right. And so this is going to edit the configuration file where we put it in the etc folder. And the thing we have to do here is, remember when I connected with my browser to the administration page, it said the certificate is no good and I had to override that. Now the Windows client is going to connect to that same server and it's going to get the same bad certificate. And I don't want it popping up a message trying to get an answer from the user. I want to warn it to not worry about that. So I have to put this line in this file, telling it I'm using self-signed SSL. So the client can connect to the server without an error. So I have to do this below the nonce line, which you'll see down here. At the end of the certificate, there's a nonce line. So here we are. I go down to the end of the certificate, and there's the nonce line, and I paste it in here. And then enter, and then I indent it the right amount. I think it has to be indented the right amount too. So now this is going to tell the configuration to accept that self-signed SSL. So I save this. All right. And whoops, I've got to get here. There we are. All right. Now we got to make the Windows client. We're going to have to run software on Windows that knows how to connect to the server. So it's going to have the the IP address of the server in there. So here's what we do. We run the existing Linux executable on the same config file, and now I generate a configuration for a client config here. All right, so I think I'll copy both of these. And all right, there we are. That's why I got the browser open on this machine so I can copy from one to another, because my remote administration doesn't let me copy and paste. All right, so this creates a client called a configuration called client config, and now I'm going to go to their GitHub and get the Windows client for this version. So that's windows.amd 64. So now I put the Windows client on my Linux machine. All right, because I have to configure it now, and now this is what's going to do it. This is going to repack it. Now you could download the server generic executable and then create a configuration file on the Windows machine, but that's not normally what you want to do, because you typically have a whole fleet of Windows machines, like hundreds of them, and you want to have a server pushing out these configs, pushing out clients that have everything already included. So what you do is you run YAML repackaged. You take the Velociraptor executable and linen config, and oh, it looks like it's done this again. Somehow my window has gotten too big again. See if I can somehow get it down here and make it smaller. My GUI keeps hosing me. All right, just cutting off the right-hand side of things again. Somehow it got big again on me. All right. So here's the AMD64 config repack exe. This is going to take the Windows executable and pack in the configuration into it and create this thing called repackaged velociraptor.exe. That's what we want. And this, by the way, is what bad guys do when you infect your machine. They have a Trojan on your machine which knows how to call home to the command and control server. And that's what we've done here. We've created a executable that knows where the command and control center is. All right. And so let me see if I get this thing to go to the left. All right. So now we need an OpenSSH server on my machine. I've already got one. You'd only have to do this if you're running local virtual machines that don't have SSH. All right. And so now I need to install the Windows client. You just need to get it to Windows. Now, by the way, you do not need to use WinSCP. You could use PowerShell and the SCP command that's already included in it. But I didn't know that when I wrote this. I used WinSCP, which is fine too. WinSCP is just a free SSH client. I need to somehow move that from the Linux machine to my Windows machine. Now, the Linux machine, I had its IP address. I think I'm just going to run IP again to get it. It's 192.168.11.33. Okay, so I go to my Windows machine here, and I run WinSCP, which is the free download. All right, And now I can connect to a remote server, and so I just need to tell, I want to connect by, I think SFTP is correct. Then I put in the IP address over here. Let's get rid of this garbage. Okay, it's 192.168.11.33, I think. And then the username and password I know for my Linux machine, Debian and Debian. And that's it. Now I log in. And it's warning it's an unknown server, and I said, that's fine, I do want to connect. And it's authenticating with pre-entered password. It's getting in. Access denied. Oh, that's right, the password's wrong. I changed it on this. All right. I'm not sleazy enough to have a cloud machine available to the internet with the default password. All right, so now I'm in. So now I just need to find that file and put it on my Windows machine. So I go to the Velociraptor folder, and there it is, the repackaged thing. So I'll put it here, and I'm in my desktop. That'll be fine. So I want to put that repackaged thing on my desktop. And there it goes. That's it. Now I'm done with this WinSCP thing. Terminate session, sure. Okay. And so there it is, repackaged Velociraptor on my desktop. And now, if I go to my instructions, which are on this machine here in the browser, on my Windows machine in a administrator command prompt, I do this. Go to the desktop and then run the thing with service install. That should be all I have to do. So here I am. I go to my desktop. Oh, this is not an administrator command prompt. So let's get rid of that and have an administrator command prompt. All right. All right. And the administrator command prompt goes to a folder that is inconvenient. So I have to go there, go to users. And the username on this machine is student and desktop. All right. Now if I do a directory, there's the repackaged Velociraptor thing. So I can run that. All right. And then it's service install. Okay. Now it's running in service. And you, by the way, can check in services to see it. If you launch services here, the background services on your Windows machine are there. If you scroll down to the V's, you'll see there is a Velociraptor service running. So this should be phoning home to my Velociraptor server and telling it that I am willing to be administered by this server. So if I go to here, and our currently connected clients was 0, if I refresh this, see, the currently connected clients is going up to 1. So that's good. So now I can click Show All to see all my clients. And, that's disturbing. Try refreshing that page. Well, maybe it picked it up in the other view. So I don't know why it wouldn't pick it up here. Let's see if it's, it may be that I have to wait a little while, although it's got it there. Let me check my instructions and see if I skipped a step. I don't think so, but that's possible. All right, so here's my instructions. Here. All right, viewing the client. Click Show All, and you should see the client. That's what I thought. So, Show All. Man, I don't see the client. Well, this is rude. Could be an issue of firewalls or something. Maybe I need to restart the server. I shouldn't have to restart the server. But I guess I'll try that. Let me try restarting the Velociraptor server. That's a typical thing you might do when you're having trouble. I'll stop it here with Control-C and then start it again. And by the way, we should see information going by here. We should see beacons coming from the client. And there's a remote get using coming. Yeah, this is it. It's getting remote. It is getting requests from the client. And all right, let's see if it's going to work better now. Refresh. All right. Show all. Well, this is a revolting situation. All right, I'm going to restart the Windows machine. That's the next thing. Just general troubleshooting when things are not working. Let's try that. This should automatically restart when I restart the machine. So I guess I could try restarting just that service, but I think it may be restart. You know, I've noticed this on the Windows 11 on ARM. You often have to restart it, but this is running on Intel hardware, so it has no right to be so rude. Anyway, let's see if it's going to work.
So you try to set up a server to look into the client, see what the client's doing?
Yes, that's the point of this. With the Velociraptor server, you can fetch information from the client, and you can make a script that hunts through all your clients, loading registry keys, files, and everything else you need for instant response. That's the idea. So you have one central server that you can use to find which ones are infected with malware and such. Okay. All right, let's see if a restart helps. All right. See, it is sending these gets. And there it is. It had a client. Then I restarted it and lost the client. Then the client came back. So it definitely seems to think I have a client. But for some reason, the show all is not letting me see the client. So this is rude. Well, all right, I'm going to stop this recording and step away for a few minutes and come back and just see if some time does it. I want to step away anyway. So I would pause this recording if I could, but I don't think I have that option in this thing. So I'll stop.